welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. This is Breaking Ground and I'm Hina Gambhir. As always, let's get started with a glimpse of top 5 stories that we have packed for you in this edition of Breaking Ground this evening. We will tell you about the politics that's happening over India's bid to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games, how that has ignited a fresh political showdown. Congress MP Dipinder Hooda is asking why Gujarat has been chosen as the hosting state despite the state not winning a single medal in 2026. Then we will talk about high drama that was witnessed in Tamil Nadu today. Tamil Nadu's leader of opposition Udyanidhi Stalin, who is in the middle of a massive legal storm after his double meaning comment on Trisha went viral and he was arrested earlier today. He is set to be questioned by Tamil Nadu police. Meanwhile, High Court has given him some relief. High Court has ordered his release post-questioning. So that's going to be our story number 2. Then we will talk about how a day after securing landmark victory in Bankipur by-poll, Jan Swaraj Party chief Prashant Kishore is attributing his success to how people have, in fact, looked at this as an experiment, how they have trusted him. And he's seeing this as an experiment by the people of Bankipur, how they have rejected BJP and given him an opportunity. We had an exclusive conversation with Prashant Kishore that's lined up for you as well on Breaking Ground. Then we will tell you about the political standoff over Ram Mandir donation embezzlement case that's continuing. Opposition parties are demanding a debate in Parliament and UP Assembly, while the centre and UP government accuse them of disrupting the proceedings and politicizing the issue that is already under SC review. So that's going to be our story number 4. And then we'll talk about Meta. It seems trouble for Meta is far from over. Meta's team is set to meet government representatives tomorrow. The policy head has also been summoned. So we'll tell you all about that story as well on Breaking Ground this evening. But first up, the big story of the day. Viewers, India is still celebrating the glory of its champions at Glasgow. 39 medals, 13 golds and a 4th place finish. There is another reason to celebrate. The Commonwealth Games are coming back to India in 2030. 20 years after Delhi CWG 2010. It's a huge sporting moment, a huge honor and an opportunity for India to showcase itself on the global stage. But even before the celebrations could die down, politics has taken over. Congress MP Dipinder Hooda has turned the medal tally into a Haryana versus Gujarat argument. His contention is emotional, but it defies logic. Congress MP says that Haryana's athletes delivered 7 of India's 13 gold medals at Glasgow. Gujarat delivered none, 0. So why should Ahmedabad host the 2030 Commonwealth Games? Hooda is adding that Haryana should either host the Games or at least be made a co-host for CWG 2030. He calls it a question of Raj Dharm, not Rajya Dharm, and argues that the state producing India's champions should also benefit from massive sporting and infrastructure investment that comes with hosting a global event.
Olympics, Asian, Commonwealth for the last 20 years. Haryana's players have been bagging more than 50% of overall the total medals for India. It is about Raj Dharm, not Rajya Dharm.
Let's give you a little bit more information as far as this particular story is concerned. Now, this is a fact check on hosting, right? In fact, it is not decided by a state's medal tally. So this is very, very important. Does medal tally decide the host of a particular sporting event or a game? The host city actually makes bid for hosting rights. So that's very, very important here, something that has been ignored. Technical delivery is assessed by the CW Sport. So there are a lot of factors that are at play. Venues and infrastructure is also assessed. And then governance and delivery capacity becomes extremely important as well. And lastly, Commonwealth Sport makes host decision. In fact, it's not something that the government decides. It's the decision is taken on a number of issues, and these are some of the issues that are important when it is decided as to which state or city will be hosting Commonwealth Games for any country. And viewers, we have a reaction now coming in from Dipinder Hooda. Listen in.
जो हम बात कहते आए हैं वो साबित हो गई। 13 गोल्ड मेडल में से 7 गोल्ड मेडल अकेले हरियाणा के आए हैं। अब बात है कि 2030 के कॉमनवेल्थ खेल कहाँ हो। हरियाणा, हमारी मांग है हरियाणा में 2030 के कॉमनवेल्थ खेल की मेजबानी या तो हरियाणा में की जाए या सह मेजबान प्रदेश हरियाणा को बनाया जाए। जब भारतवर्ष को ये मौका मिला है, इससे पिछला मौका मिला था भारतवर्ष को 2010 में, जब 100 से ज्यादा मेडल आए, इतिहास बना कॉमनवेल्थ खेल का भारतवर्ष का। दूसरे नंबर पे भारत आया पदक तालिका में, 39 गोल्ड मेडल आए। उन 39 गोल्ड मेडल में से भी 24 गोल्ड मेडल अकेले हरियाणा के खिलाड़ी लेके आए थे। आज आपने देखा खेलो इंडिया में सबसे ज्यादा बजट खेलो इंडिया में भारत सरकार ने गुजरात में दिया।
But viewers, Dipinder Huda's argument has drawn a sharp counter from Olympian and BJP leader Babita Phogat. She asked why this medal should decide the host. Logic was never raised when Delhi hosted the Commonwealth Games in 2010, despite Haryana already being one of India's biggest sporting powerhouses. Phogat has also questioned Huda's own record in Haryana Sports Administration. Her charge is that Huda is taking medals won under the tricolour and turning them into ammunition for a Haryana versus Gujarat political battle. So let's now show you what happened in 2010 when Congress was in power and India hosted viewers Commonwealth Games at that point in time. In fact, Congress's CWG double game when in power 2002, Haryana topped India's CWG medal tally. And Delhi pitched as a host for 2010 Commonwealth Games in 2003. Then in 2006, Haryana topped India's CWG medal tally once again. CWG in India, host city Delhi, not Rohtak. So that's the question that's being asked right now. But now that the attack has gone much further than medals, Congress leader Pawan Khera asked where the contracts for major projects would eventually go, alleging they would land with contractors from Gujarat. Like this, there are other reactions from Congress party as well. Before we get you all of those, let's go across to my colleague Mohit Bhatt, who is joining us live right now for more on this. Mohit, at a time when the country should be celebrating our wonderful victory this time at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, what are we debating? The politics that's happening over the next CWG Games that are supposed to happen in India.
Well, yes, Ina, and from past 2 days, Dipender Hooda, along with the MPs from Haryana of the Congress party, have been raising this particular issue. Now, I specifically asked him that what exactly he means to say when he says that Gujarat should not hold the CWG Games and, in fact, Haryana should host it. He's clearly stated that Haryana, and the logic that is being given by Dipender Hooda is that Haryana is a state which gives out most medals when it comes to Olympics, when it comes to Commonwealth, or when it comes to the Asian Games, and hence Gujarat has not given single medal when it comes to the Commonwealth Game this time around also. And he says that hence the Commonwealth Game should be hosted in Haryana. So this is the logic given by Dipender Hooda. He also goes on to say that the Rajya Dharm is not followed, not the Raj Dharm, clearly hinting at Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah that they are from the state of Gujarat and perhaps this is being done. Well, as you rightly pointed out, the venue for the games is not decided by any specific parameter. There are certain rules and regulations that decided. Now, we clearly see that the politics being played on this. We see Dipender Hooda attacking the government, saying that just because Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes from Gujarat, the games are being held over there. And in fact, I specifically asked him that maybe Haryana does not have the infrastructure. He said that, yes, it could be right, but then if you will give us sports, then only infrastructure will be built. At least give us co-hosting rights of the game. So clearly what we see is that...
I think that's also an interesting argument, Mohit, isn't it? That if an opportunity is given, perhaps the infrastructure could get developed as well. But right now, what we are only witnessing on this issue is politics. Thank you very much, Mohit, for the moment, for joining us with your inputs on this story. Now, viewers, as I mentioned, we've got a reaction from several political parties. I told you about Congress leader Pawan Khera, Congress MP Imran Masood has also asked whether people of Gujarat are only here to make money. And a Samajwadi Party MLA has alleged that sporting events are being taken to Gujarat for monetary gains. Listen in.
पूरा देश पूछ रहा है और न केवल खेल के विषय में, हर विषय में देश भर में ठेके कहां जाएंगे? गुजरात के ठेकेदारों को। बनारस सिल्क का पूरा उद्योग किसके हाथ में चला जाएगा? गुजरात के हाथ में चला जाएगा। अरे क्यों साहब, पूरा देश नहीं दिखता आपको? गुजरात हमारे दिल में है, लेकिन गुजरात का दिल भी बड़ा है। इन दो गुजरातियों 2G को छोड़कर बाकी पूरे गुजरात का दिल बड़ा है।
मैं तो कल भी वहां जोर से बोल रहा था, मैंने गुजरात के कितने प्लेयर हैं भी बता दो, या सिर्फ पैसे ही कमाने वाले हैं गुजरात वाले, सिर्फ पैसे कमाने हैं। गुजरात के लोग पैसे कमा रहे हैं, उन्हें पैसे कमा रहे हैं, सत्ता तुम्हारे पास है, पैसे तुम कहा है, अब खेल भी तुम ही ले लो यार, सब कुछ तुम ही ले लो ना। सबसे ज्यादा मेडल कौन ले रहा है, वहां दो ना।
देखिए ऐसा है कि यहाँ पर स्पोर्ट्स को बढ़ावा देने के लिए कोई आयोजन नहीं होता है, आर्थिक लाभ को बढ़ावा देने के लिए आयोजन होते हैं। गुजरात के लोग जब पूरे देश के अंदर आकर विकास के नाम पर ठगी का काम कर रहे हैं और आर्थिक लाभ अर्जित कर रहे हैं, तो वो कहीं पर भी पैसे का अर्जन कर सकते हैं। उन लोगों को इससे कोई मतलब नहीं कि हरियाणा के लोग स्पोर्ट्स में आगे हैं, उत्तर प्रदेश के लोग स्पोर्ट्स में आगे हैं, पंजाब के लोग स्पोर्ट्स में आगे हैं। उनको मतलब ये है कि हम अपने यहाँ गुजरात में अपने हिसाब से खेलों का आयोजन करेंगे तो बजट का एलोकेशन भी अपने हिसाब से होगा।
Let's now move on and talk about story number 2, and this one is from Tamil Nadu. It was a dramatic day. We saw a dramatic turn of events in Tamil Nadu. Hours after Udayanithi Stalin made a crass, offensive and vulgar comment alluding to Trisha, the Tamil Nadu police were at his residence and took him into custody. Several cops were seen at Udayanithi's residence at 9 a.m. and by 11 a.m. he was whisked away by the police officials. High drama followed as several DMK workers were also seen at the spot claiming political vendetta by TVK government. The arrest happened just hours after his comment in Thanjavur, and in fact this comment was made that went viral later, was made when the focus was supposed to be on the Kaveri issue, and it was a double meaning retort that drew cheers from the crowd as well, and the crowd in fact started chanting Trisha Trisha, but Udayanidhi Stalin did not even stop them. In the crass turn of events, Udayanidhi was seen smirking as he made the double meaning comment. Listen into what exactly happened. So let's give you a sense of what really happened. At 9 a.m., cops arrived at Udayanidhi's residence in Chennai. And just look at the visuals. Here, the cops arrived around 9 a.m. in the morning. And then his wife was seen having a conversation with the cops. This happened around 9:30 a.m. Then at 11 a.m., Udayanidhi was arrested. He was put in this particular vehicle. He was surrounded by his supporters as well. And then he was taken to Thanjavur. He's still on his way. He's about to reach the final destination, that's Thanjavur, where cops are going to be questioning him for at least 2 hours. At 11:15 a.m. when he was being taken away, there were a lot of media personnel around him. They asked him the question. His first reaction was, it's a joke. And he also said that he's ready to face any kind of consequences. Meanwhile, big developments in fact came in from the Madras High Court as well. After questioning the Tamil Nadu government's move, the court made it clear that there was no need for prolonged custody, paving way for his release after interrogation. In fact, the government too then clarified in the court that they did not intend to seek Udayanidhi's remand and would release him post his interrogation.
In Tamil Nadu, criticism is not tolerated. Intolerance to criticisms. Mr. M.K. Stalin, when he was chief minister, he was criticized to the extreme, but we took it. Even it could be Kalaignar or Jayalalitha, many criticisms have been leveled, they took it as it is. So that sort of approach a government or a leader should have. Whereas anybody who speaks on YouTube, anybody who speaks on platform, immediately taking it serious and filing cases, non-bailable cases and arresting, is not a good sign of a democratic government.
பெண்களுக்கு எதிராக இல்ல பெண்களுக்கு எதிராக எந்தவித குற்றச்சம்பவங்களும் எந்தவித அவதூறு வார்த்தைகளும் எந்தவித தவறான பேச்சுக்களும் என்ன பேசினாலும் இந்த அரசு இந்த காவல்துறை கண்டிப்பா அவருடைய சட்டப்பூர்வமா என்ன நடவடிக்கை எடுப்போம் அதை எடுப்பாங்க. திமுகவினருக்கு இவ்வளவு பேர் இருக்காங்க, அவங்களுடைய வீட்லயே அவர் பேசினதை போட்டு காட்டும். உதயநிதி பேசினதுல ஏதாவது ஒரு வார்த்தை ஏற்புடையதா இருக்கான்னு சொல்லிட்டு இவ்வளவு கீழ்த்தரமா கேவலமா பேச வேண்டிய அவசியம் என்ன இருக்கு உதயநிதிக்கு?
Now, viewers, we'll also tell you about the FIR. We have accessed the copy of the FIR, and these are the sections that are mentioned in the FIR. Section 196 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which is for promoting enmity, disturbing harmony. Section 192, provocation likely to cause riot. Section 352 of BNS, intentional insult, provoking breach of peace. Section 79 of BNS, insulting a woman's modesty. Section 296B, obscene words used in public, and Section 61 of BNS, which is criminal conspiracy. Apart from that, Section 35(2) of BNS, that's for criminal intimidation, and Section 4 of TNPHW Act, which is harassment of women, and lastly, Section 67 of IT Act, publishing, transmitting obscene online content. Now, these are the charges that are mentioned in the FIR copy that has been accessed by Times Now. Let me straight away now go across to my colleague Varshini, who is joining us live at this point in time. Varshini, good evening. You know, as we speak, I believe Udyanidhi is still on his way. Police officials are still taking him to Thanjavur, where his questioning is going to happen. Can you give us a sense of the line of questioning and any comment that has come in from DMK's side after the relief that Udyanidhi got from the High Court today?
Well, absolutely, yes. To answer your first question, Udayanidhi Stalin, who is en route to Thanjavur along with the Thanjavur police, is expected to reach Thanjavur around between 6 to 7 p.m. And we are also given to understand that there is a lot of gathering in front of the Thanjavur East police station. They have, DMK cadres, senior leaders, people who have not been detained so far have all gathered there in front of the police station, and there's a lot of crowd that is currently present there. So we are given to understand from our police sources that he might likely be taken to a different police station for inquiry because they need to investigate, and the line of questioning is going to be in line with his speech yesterday, since the video footage has already been viral on social media and has already has been out there in the public forum. The questioning will be related to his remarks that he made during the speech from the protest yesterday in Thanjavur, and also with regards to what the DMK is saying right now. The party's president and former chief minister M.K. Stalin, in fact, released a statement a couple of hours ago where he mentioned about how this is a fascist activity that is being done by the TVK government. The TVK is, in fact, doing this purposefully to avoid having the leader of opposition from the budget session and to also deviate from the politics that is ongoing in the state, where we have to be speaking about the Kaveri issue or the NEET-related issue, right, or what the people are actually speaking about. They are trying to deviate. It is what the DMK is saying.
But I think that charge stands demolished now, Varshini, because as we've been reporting that he has got relief from Madras High Court. After the questioning, he can go back to Chennai because questioning, will happen today itself, and that's the intention. Thank you very much for the moment for joining us with your inputs. Now, viewers, the arrest of Udyanidhi Stalin sparked a political storm beyond Tamil Nadu, which in fact also echoed in the national capital in Sansad earlier today. The issue reached Parliament as the DMK raised it in the Rajya Sabha, alleging again political vendetta and misuse of power. Listen in.
Freedom of expression as ensured in the Constitution, sir, is not implemented in Tamil Nadu, sir. Totally freedom of expression is deprived and curtailed. Even the leader of opposition in the assembly, Mr. Udyanidhi Stalin, for just a public speaking, is being arrested. And everywhere. This is concerned with the state government. Sir, everywhere, sir. Law and order. Concerned with the state order. Law and order is the state subject. Parliament is meant for everything. Now, I am meant for it.
Let's now move on and shift our focus to another big story of the day, and this one is from Bihar. A major political upset for BJP in Bihar has triggered a fresh debate after his landmark victory in the Bankipur by-poll. Jan Suraj founder Prashant Kishore called the result a wake-up call for Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP, suggesting that growing discontent among Gen Z voters may have played a key role in ending the party's decades-long dominance in the constituency. Here's a closer look at remarks and the political message behind the Bankipur verdict.
बीजेपी का अभेद किला माने जाने वाला बांकीपुर विधानसभा सीट पर प्रशांत किशोर ने कब्जा किया, या यूं कहे कि उस किले को ध्वस्त कर दिया। हमारे साथ खुद प्रशांत किशोर जी हैं। प्रशांत जी, अब तक पहले तो आपको बहुत बधाई हो।
धन्यवाद।
क्या मुद्दे रहे, क्या मानते हैं कि इस पूरे जीत के पीछे क्या वजह रहा कि प्रशांत किशोर को ऐसी जगह से जीत मिली जो बीजेपी का गढ़ माना जाता है?
देखिए, किसी विधानसभा को या लोकसभा को अपना गढ़ मान लेना तो किसी नेता या दल के लिए सबसे बड़ी भूल है। लोगों ने वोट इसलिए भाजपा के खिलाफ दिया क्योंकि सम्राट चौधरी का जो नेतृत्व यहाँ पर बिहार के मुख्यमंत्री के तौर पर दिया गया है वो लोगों को स्वीकार्य नहीं है। दूसरा, जो भाजपा का राजनीतिक अहंकार लोगों को दिखता है, जहाँ पर लोग ये मानते हैं कि कुछ भी हम करें न करें मोदी जी के नाम पर वोट मिलेगा ही मिलेगा, उसके खिलाफ वोट पड़ा है। और तीसरी बात, जितना बड़ा मैंडेट भाजपा को मिला हुआ है, जितने सांसद, जितने विधायक जीते हुए हैं, कहीं ना कहीं सब लोग अपने घर पे बैठे हुए हैं, कोई काम नहीं कर रहा है। इस भरोसे बैठा हुआ है कि जब चुनाव आएगा तो भाजपा के नाम पर या मोदी के चेहरे के नाम पर या लालू जी का डर दिखाकर वोट मिल जाएगा, तो उसको झकझोरने के लिए जनता ने वोट दिया है। और 3 साल से मैं यहाँ प्रयास कर रहा था बिहार में, बाकीपुर में तो मैंने कोई ऐसा काम नहीं किया है, लेकिन बिहार में मैं कोशिश कर रहा था, लोगों को बात समझ में आई, उनको विकल्प दिखा तो लोगों ने वोट दे दिया।
आपसे मैंने चुनाव के प्रचार के दौरान भी इंटरव्यू एक किया था, तो आपने कहा था कि ये जो चुनाव है ये सम्राट चौधरी के लिए रेफरेंडम होगा, अगर वो चुनाव हारते हैं तो उनको कुर्सी छोड़नी होगी। अभी भी आप ये बात कहेंगे?
बिल्कुल कायम है। आप देखिए, आप मीडिया से ही हैं, जो देश भर में चर्चा चल रही है वो इसकी चर्चा नहीं चल रही कि बाकीपुर में नाली गली बेहतर हो जाएगा। चर्चा तो यही चल रही है कि भाई पहली बार नीतीश कुमार को हटाकर भाजपा ने अपना मुख्यमंत्री बनाया और उस चुनाव को हार गए, उस क्षेत्र में हार गए जहां 30 वर्ष से हारे नहीं थे। तो निश्चित तौर पे उनके मुख्यमंत्री, उनके नेतृत्व पे उंगली उठेगी। और जहां पर आप कह रहे थे कि हम कुत्ता बिल्ली को भी खड़ा कर देंगे तो चुनाव जीत जाएंगे, वहां इतनी बड़ी आपकी हार हुई है कि सब बूथ हार गए। आप कितने वोट से हारे हैं उस पर मत जाइए। 51,000 से भाजपा ये सीट जीती थी, आज 20,000 से हारी है। 71,000 वोट आपका शिफ्ट हो गया है 8 महीने के अंदर। तो ये दिखाता है कि ये बहुत बड़ा जनता में असंतोष है। और भाजपा ने यहाँ कोई गोली तो चलवाई नहीं है। क्या ऐसा किया है भाजपा ने? नेतृत्व बदला है, नीतीश कुमार को हटाकर सम्राट चौधरी को लेकर आए हैं। और 6-8 महीने में जिस आशा अपेक्षा, जिन वादों के साथ ये आए थे, जो 10,000 रुपए बांटे थे, कहा था 2 लाख रुपए देंगे, वो नहीं पूरा हुआ, इसलिए जनता ने वोट अगेंस्ट में किया है।
एक उपचुनाव हारने के बाद मुख्यमंत्री क्यों छोड़े कुर्सी, ये भी तो कहा जाएगा।
नहीं, ये बात तो ठीक है कि एक उपचुनाव से मुख्यमंत्री क्यों छोड़े, मुख्यमंत्री खुद से नहीं छोड़ेंगे, कोई संवैधानिक ये मजबूरी नहीं है। लेकिन भाजपा का जो राजनीतिक नेतृत्व है वो तो जरूर इस बात का आकलन करेगा कि जिस विधानसभा को पिछले 30 वर्ष में नहीं हारे हैं, वो अगर सम्राट चौधरी के खिलाफ वो उसने वोट किया है, उनके नेतृत्व के खिलाफ वोट किया है, तो भाजपा को उसको चिंतन करना पड़ेगा, उनको हटाने की चिंता करनी पड़ेगी। अगर नहीं हटाएंगे तो मैं आपको लिख कर देता हूं, आगे के चुनाव में भी इसका बड़ा खामियाजा इनको भुगतना पड़ेगा। मैं जितना समझ पाया हूं, बिहार की जनता सम्राट चौधरी जैसे व्यक्ति को अपना मुख्यमंत्री मानने को तैयार नहीं है।
क्योंकि बिहार में जो चुनाव होता है जाति के इर्द गिर्द ही घूमता है, तो आपका जो ये चुनाव हुआ, उपचुनाव बांकीपुर का, इसमें लगा कि जाति का बंधन टूट गया, क्योंकि जिस तरह से वोट आपको मिले हैं सभी जातियों के तरफ से वोट दिया गया।
भाई ये तो आपको देखना है। मैं फिर वही बात कहूंगा, 422 बूथ है, हर बूथ में तो अलग अलग जातियों के लोग रह रहे हैं करीब करीब, और हर बूथ पर भाजपा हारी है। 400 से ज्यादा बूथ पर जनसुराज जीता है। तो ये दिखाता है कि सभी जाति, सभी वर्ग के लोगों ने वोट दिया है। और कहीं ना कहीं जो 3 साल से जनसुराज में हम बात ये कह रहे हैं कि बिहार में सुधार तब होगा जब लोग जाति, धर्म, दल और नेताओं की अंधभक्ति से ऊपर उठकर लोगों के लिए वोट, अच्छे लोगों को जिताने के लिए वोट देंगे, तभी सुधार होगा। और बांकीपुर की जनता ने उसको चरितार्थ करके दिखाया है, उसके लिए मैं उनका आभारी हूं और कोशिश करूंगा कि उनके इस विश्वास पर खरे उतरें, मजबूती से, पूरी दमखम से काम करें। लोगों के जीवन में अगर बदलाव आएगा तो बांकीपुर से ही ये संदेश पूरे बिहार में जाएगा। मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूं कि पूरा बिहार बांकीपुर है, और इतना आसान भी नहीं है, लेकिन बांकीपुर में जो लोगों ने जो एक्सपेरिमेंट किया है, अगर इससे लोगों की जिंदगी बेहतर होती है, यहाँ व्यवस्था सुधरती है, तो निश्चित तौर पर बिहार के अन्य हिस्सों पर भी उसका बड़ा असर पड़ेगा।
जेएनजी आंदोलन भी क्या लगता है उसकी भी अहमियत रही आपकी जीत में, क्योंकि जिस तरह से छात्र और युवा जुड़े थे इस आंदोलन से, उसका असर दिखा। पहली बार उन्होंने बीजेपी को दिखाने की कोशिश की इस चुनाव के जरिए।
नहीं, मैं बिल्कुल स्पष्ट कर रहा हूँ, नेशनल मीडिया में भी अगर ये कोई एनालाइज कर रहा है, परसेप्शन वाइज इसका असर होगा, लेकिन बांकीपुर में जो वोट पड़ा है उसमें जेएनजी का कोई बहुत वोट नहीं है। लोगों ने वोट नहीं दिया है। तो मैं आपके जरिए उनको ये कहना भी चाहता हूं कि जंतर मंतर पर आप आंदोलन कर रहे हैं, बहुत संघर्ष कर रहे हैं, अच्छी बात है, लेकिन वोट भी देने जाइए। सिर्फ आंदोलन करने से नहीं होगा। जिन जी उस संख्या में निकलकर यहाँ वोट उन्होंने नहीं दिया, ये तो जो सामान्य वोट लोग देते हैं उन लोगों ने ही वोट दिया है। मूलतः जो भाजपा के वोटर रहे हैं उन्होंने ही अपना मन बदला है और भाजपा के नेतृत्व को ये संदेश दिया है कि भाई हमको टेकन फॉर ग्रांटेड मत लीजिए।
So interesting commentary there from Prashant Kishore, the man of the moment himself. One, of course, he referred to the verdict as an experiment by the people of Bankipur. And on the other hand, he said that this isn't really because of the Gen Z protest that we saw in the national capital. Definitely, there has been some perception about the government following what happened, but not a direct impact of what we saw in Delhi. We will slip into a very, very short break right now, but there's lots lined up on Breaking Ground, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back here with us on Times Now. Viewers, the political battle over the Ram Temple donation embezzlement case has yet again found itself inside the parliament. A fierce face-off unfolded in the Rajya Sabha after Congress President and Leader of Opposition Mallikarjun Kharge questioned the transparency of Ram Temple Trust, raising concerns over cash donations, land purchases and its overall functioning. The remarks then triggered an immediate and sharp response from Treasury benches. Leading the counter-attack, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju accused the Congress of attempting to politicize a matter of deep religious significance. Rijiju demanded that Kharge should apologize, alleging that the Congress and the Samajwadi Party have consistently opposed Ram Temple movement, have insulted Lord Ram in the past. And today, the same set of people are raising this issue. Listen.
जो राम जन्मभूमि तीर्थ क्षेत्र ट्रस्ट और उसमें जो बहुमूल्य भेंटों, नगद दान, जमीन खरीद और प्रबंधन को लेकर गंभीर आरोप सामने आए हैं। ये करोड़ों श्रद्धालुओं की आस्था की विषय है। इस ट्रस्ट का गठन केंद्र सरकार ने किया है। प्रधानमंत्री ने खुद संसद में ट्रस्ट के गठबंधन की घोषणा की और सरकार ने 70 एकड़ से अधिक भूमि ट्रस्ट को सौंपी और भूमि पूजन से लेकर प्राण प्रतिष्ठा तक हर महत्वपूर्ण अवसर पर प्रधानमंत्री जी इस प्रक्रिया का चेहरा बने तो जवाब देने से बचा नहीं जा सकते। प्रधानमंत्री जी सदन में बताइए, ईडी, सीबीआई, इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट और अन्य केंद्रीय जांच ये लीडर ऑपोजिशन लेके रही है। ये मुद्दा को लेकर के वो संसद के बाहर भी हंगामा करते हैं या चलने नहीं देते हैं, तो दूसरा का बात सुनता नहीं है। आप खुद ही बोलना चाहते हैं। सर, आप ये लीडर ऑफ ऑपोजिशन खड़गे जी को जितना समय दिया वो मिसयूज करना चाहते हैं हर समय। ये हम लोग इसको मंजूर नहीं कर सकते हैं और बाकी जो मेंबर लोग ये नोटिस दिया हुआ है उनको मौका मिलना चाहिए। हर बार एलओपी का नाम से वो खड़े होकर के एक ही मुद्दे को दिन भर उठाते रहते हैं। ये नहीं होगा, ये नहीं चलेगा। हाउस सबका है, ये लीडर ऑफ अपोजिशन का सिर्फ हाउस नहीं है सर, इसको और परमिशन नहीं मिलना चाहिए।
Parallelly, UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath launched a scathing attack on Samajwadi Party over disruption in the assembly, calling the opposition's conduct illogical and unconstitutional. UP CM said it amounted to an insult to the makers of the constitution. He said Samajwadi Party had assured the Business Advisory Committee that it would raise issues through proper notices, but instead attempted to discuss the Ayodhya Shri Ram Janmabhoomi matter despite it being under the Supreme Court's consideration.
समाजवादी पार्टी ने कार्य मंत्रणा समिति की बैठक में भी और दलीय नेताओं की बैठक में भी इस बात के लिए आश्वस्त किया था कि वे जिन मुद्दों पे चर्चा करना चाहते हैं वे नियम के अंतर्गत अपनी नोटिस देंगे और संसदीय कार्य मंत्री ने कार्य मंत्रणा में और दलीय नेताओं की बैठक में मैंने स्वयं भी इस बात के लिए कहा था कि जो भी विषय अध्यक्ष पीठ के द्वारा स्वीकृत होंगे और चर्चा के लिए स्वीकार किए जाएंगे उन पर सत्ता पक्ष की ओर से तर्कपूर्ण तरीके से उसका जवाब भी दिया जाएगा। बावजूद अयोध्या से राम जन्मभूमि से संबंधित मामले में जानते हुए कि माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय में यह मामला लंबित है, उस पूरे प्रकरण की गंभीरता को समझते हुए भी इन्होंने न केवल आज सदन की अवमानना की है, सदन का अपमान किया है, साथ ही माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय में लंबित और माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय की निगरानी में चल रही उस पूरी प्रक्रिया को भी अपमानित करने का शर्मनाक प्रयास समाजवादी पार्टी के द्वारा किया गया। समाजवादी पार्टी का और विपक्ष का यह आचरण अलोकतांत्रिक भी है और संवैधानिक भी है। संविधान निर्माताओं का और बाबा साहब भीमराव अंबेडकर की भावनाओं का अपमान भी है।
Let's now go across to my colleague Mohit Bhatt, who's joining us live right now for more on this. Mohit, even as the probe in Ram Temple donation theft case is going on, we saw the issue being raised in the Rajya Sabha today. There was a fierce confrontation between Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge and Kiren Rijiju, and in UP, the CM also targeted the opposition.
Well, yes, in fact, and you see, what we see is that with Samajwadi Party, the Congress Party again is also raising this issue in the parliament. We saw massive protests on daily basis. Protests are happening regarding the Chanda Chori. We saw uproar over the insult to Sanatan over there. Also, when Pappu Yadav dressed as a saint and then he protested at the Makar Dwar. Also, Hina, today when Mallikarjun Kharge, the leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha, was raising this particular issue, we saw Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju standing up and saying the Samajwadi Party and the Congress Party, they have always been against the construction of Grand Ram Temple in Ayodhya. They have always been against Ram Temple. They have filed petitions against Ram Temple, and today they are speaking about it because they see a political opportunity. And also the debate and discussion was going on the bill, but this particular issue was raised by the opposition, and not just in Rajya Sabha but in Lok Sabha too. Chanda Chori slogans were being raised. So clearly what we see is that it has become a strategy of the opposition that whenever the parliament proceedings will convene, they will raise this particular issue. And similarly, same was done in the assembly in UP too. While the government maintains we are ready for debate and discussion, there are certain important bills that need to be passed. We have to have debate and discussion on that. But the opposition parties first, they protest at around 10:30 at the Makar Dwar on this, and then in the parliament too, they raise slogans. And in the end, the proceedings of the parliament suffer due to this. Back to you.
Right. Thank you very much, Mohit, for the moment, for joining us with your inputs on the story. Press conference by Sheikh Hasina. MEA has responded to that particular aspect as well. She's supposed to address a presser on August 5, which is tomorrow. Bangladesh, in fact, has raised objections. MEA has responded to Bangladesh's objections, saying that interaction is being held by a private entity. And MEA has also denied any government role in Hasina's presser. Listen in.
The interaction that you are referring to is being organized by a private media entity. The government has no involvement whatsoever in it. Neither does it endorse any views that may be expressed at the forum.
Let's go back to Akanksha, who continues to be with us at this point in time. Akanksha, when is the press conference tomorrow? MEA clearly has clarified that government has got nothing to do with it. But what can be expected? It's going to be very interesting. This will be the first time that she will be speaking after she came from Bangladesh to India and the kind of circumstances that she came from.
There's already a virtual address that she's made earlier, but remember, there was no government formation that time when she addressed the media or virtually. And this time again, it's going to be a virtual address at the Foreign Correspondents Club tomorrow on August 5 in the evening. and this is going to be a milestone in itself, given that she'll be addressing the press for the first time, with reports doing the rounds that she could be considering going back to Bangladesh, Hina. And more importantly, this is after Tariq Rahman became the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Now, there's a bit of a background here. The newly appointed High Commissioner Dinesh Trivedi, had a meeting with Bangladesh Prime Minister's foreign advisor, Humayun Kabir. This is where, according to the Bangladesh Foreign Ministry, the matter was taken up, and the High Commissioner was conveyed Bangladesh's displeasure with regards to Sheikh Hasina making such a virtual address tomorrow.
Right.
And so to that, the Ministry of External Affairs has made it amply clear that, first of all, it's this entire address is going to be in a private capacity, and that the Indian government has nothing to do with this address. More importantly, these are views that are solely endorsed by Sheikh Hasina, and the Indian government in no capacity supports her views.
Right. Stay on with us, Akanksha. There's another important update that we would like to highlight from the press conference of MEA, and this is about the issue of missing seafarers. MEA has shared updates on missing Indian seafarers as vessels continue to come under attack every few days. Listen in.
This particular vessel, Aegean Ragnar, it came under attack while it was leaving the Odessa port. There were 4 Indian nationals on board, and as I've informed you earlier, 2 of them are safe and 2 of them are missing. Since the incident took place, our embassies both in Ukraine and in Romania, they have been in constant touch with the local authorities, and search and rescue operations have been undertaken as directed by the Honorable Supreme Court. In coordination with authorities in Ukraine and Romania, we are making all efforts to trace the 2 missing Indian nationals. We are also in touch with the family members of these 2 Indian nationals, and we are offering all possible help. Let me also say that we attach the highest importance and priority to the safety and well-being and welfare of our seafaring community across the world.
And with this, it's a wrap. Thank you very much for staying with us here on Breaking Ground. Heading into a short break, Blueprint Explosive exclusive coming up next.